you don't even understand what culture is. You would think somebody else understands that you have culture. And in the fact that you say you don't have culture, you think that somebody else won't say you don't have culture. It's okay to say you don't have culture yourself until somebody else say you don't have culture. The reality is most of us don't know what culture is. I teach master and PhD students every day, and most of them don't know what culture is. Even though they've been taught about it. They're social scientists even. And they still have to be reminded about the depth of culture, not just singing and dancing. Not to say singing and dancing is not a part of it, but they have to understand worldview, ontology, even genetics when it comes to how things are passed down for us to survive. Dr. Marimba Anis talks about culture, and I like the way she says it. People often use this other thing, says your immune system, but I also like how she says that culture is ordered behavior. And this ordered behavior is to bring about order amongst chaos and other things like that. So it's what orders your world. So, you know, we have to understand. We don't have to do anything. But what I'm saying is, if we don't understand how different people are, as Brother Asar Imhotep said, or should I say Osir Imhotep said, that, and I want to be clear, he's not coming from this ivory tower. He says that we need to get back to study groups even. Where are the study groups at? You understand? Where are the communiversities? Not just the university, but the communiversity. Like even here at TNAT, we have communiversities. And I'm looking for everybody on this panel to come and teach at it one day. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
we really don't know what culture is. And the communiversity, I'm telling you, one thing I can say about the African Senate community, when you go to, even if what you learn in the community, good, bad, indifferent, when you go to academia, you are advanced.
Indeed. Now there's I made a post on Facebook that I'm going to elaborate at another time, speaking about this very same thing that you're talking about here in terms of people not understanding what culture is.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna be presenting something that is not orthodox and will be the cause for much debate. But I divide culture, or the discussion of culture, into three distinct categories. So you have a culture, or an on culture, or a synonym will be called a go culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just give ethnic groups as examples first. So the ethnic groups that I gave, for example, is like the Yoruba, the San, the Batwa. We can even put the Chinese, in there as well. They have on cultures or go cultures. Then there is what I call an unculture.
Mm-hmm.
And the example of an unculture would be the African Americans. Then I say there's a no culture or an anti-culture. And those would be individuals like the Jews, the Arabs, and of course the North American whites. They have no culture. And it's an anti-culture. Now, I have a slightly different definition of culture, but it includes fundamentally, because culture has to deal with investment. It is what you put into something with the expectation that it is going to become something greater.
Mm.
So your culture is that which it is a combination of the values, the social rules and taboos, the institutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
That come together, that coalesce together to provide knowledge, wisdom, resources, a safe environment for the individual to become what they need to become, what the community needs for them to become, so that the community can sustain itself and or grow, right? So there's culture has an ideal human being in mind. And all of these resources and social institutions come together to help the individual come close to the ideal that the ancestors have, you know what I'm saying, for the individual. Right. And so that includes your language, in terms of, you know, what you must have for the culture. You must have a social system that, again, pours into you to create an ideal human being. It is intentional. Culture doesn't happen happenstance. People sit down and organize, as you said. Culture. This is the kind of human being we need. Well, the question is, well, how do you develop them? So you put together a plan, a life plan for the people in the community. And then you organize around the values and the things that is necessary to bring that about in your community. And so this is what's lacking. This is why we have an unculture here in the United States. We have elements of culture. We have those Africanisms, but it's unorganized. We're too spread out. We're a very large population, but we don't have an ideal human being. What is the African American's ideal human being? And what have we created? What are the values? What are the social systems that we've created to help each person become that ideal? That is not the ideal of some other community. When we go to the no cultures, the anti-cultures, they can't exist without being anti everybody else. That's why when the Arabs and the Jews, in terms of like Christianity culture, Jewish culture, they have to erase your culture and replace it with theirs. Because they can't let you live. They can't let you be. Because your very existence is a threat to their existence. Because our existence points to their or highlights their exploitation, the lack of empathy for other communities. This is why, you know, that's why white culture doesn't have a culture. That's why they have laws and stuff to prevent you from becoming the best human being that you can be. We'll take all the resources from your neighborhood so you don't get a quality education. We'll take all the grocery stores out of your neighborhood so you don't get fresh foods. We'll do everything in our power so that you can't be the best version of yourself. That's what anti-cultures do. And so when we understand these different levels, we can have a serious conversation about the whole FBA, identity, and things of this nature. What are you rallying behind? What is your ideal FBA? And then you got to understand that there's no such thing as a pure culture. Culture is like a Venn diagram. Y'all know what a Venn diagram is? Is you have two big circles, two or more, but to keep it simple, two big circles that overlap to where there's some features on the outside of the end circle or whatnot. Your culture is that which is in the center. But you're borrowing stuff, you're interacting with other cultures. So when people say, you know, they're stealing our slang and stuff like this, have you done a deep dive into the influence of African Americans' language? Like when people say, like, if you go to New York, you hear that so-called New York slang from black folks, not knowing that a lot of that comes from Italians. A lot of that comes from Jewish folks. Your clothing, where's your clothing come from? Do you think they stopped making clothes once you bought them? Where else did they sell those clothes around the world? Of course they're going to look like the clothes you got. They send them, they sell it around the world because they have a global consciousness, a global sense of industry. That hoodie you got on ain't just sold in your local store on the east side. It's sold in Africa. It's sold in Japan. Where do you think they? Matter of fact, of course, if the Chinese got it, they done bootlegged all the stuff, so they selling it on the underground. You know, there's a lot of things like when we talk about jazz. Where do those instruments come from? Where did those piano keys come from? Where did those songs come from? Where did those military cadences come from? Like there's you can take something and fine tune it to your liking, but you borrowed it from somewhere. But FBAs, they try to act like in the academy, how the universities tried to make the Greeks, the Greek miracle, like they just created philosophy and all this other kind of stuff just out of the blue, out of nowhere. No interactions with Africans, no interactions with people in the Middle East.
Hey, Brother Asar,
Go ahead.
you a conceptual genius. I just don't agree with you. But